17 books just arrived from CGC. If you're interested in seeing the grades that I received, stay tuned for the video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to unbox this massive box of comics that just arrived from CGC. There are, I think, 17 books that are actually in this box off to my right. We are going to crack this thing open and take a look at all of the books inside. One thing that people have kind of asked me in the past is, when did I send the books in? When were the books received? Because they want to get an idea for like the turnaround time for CGC. So as I mentioned, there are about 17 books in this box right here. These books were actually received by CGC on 8/14 and they were shipped back to me on 9/24. So those are the dates received by them on 8/14. There was probably a few days where they just kind of sat there before they were actually received, i.e. checked in, and then they were shipped back to me on 9/24, and then there was a couple of days, of course, where they were kind of in limbo being shipped from Florida out to California. So those are the rough dates, and I'm looking for my box cutter so that we can actually open this box up. And I will tell you also that these are all, I think, basically modern books. So there's not really anything old in here. Modern books, and I also cleaned and pressed all of the books myself. So CGC didn't have to do that part of it. They basically just had to receive them, grade them, and then of course send them back because I took care of everything else. If you are not familiar with the cleaning and pressing process, you definitely want to take a look at one of the videos, or I should say a couple of the videos that are actually posted to the channel, because I provide you with details on how to clean and press your own comics if that is something that you're actually interested in. And part of the reason why I do it is because it actually cuts down on my cost tremendously, right? Getting books graded is expensive, especially when you factor in the clean, the press, the shipping, the grading, the return shipping. It can be expensive. And so cleaning and pressing my own books has actually reduced my cost tremendously. And that is really the big motivator behind why I decided to do it. So that first book out of the box is very, very nice. This first one is The Mighty Thor 705. This is actually the death of Jane Foster. It came back at a 9.8 with white pages. I want to say, I can't remember exactly how I received this book, to be honest with you. It could have been part of a collection. It could have been a gift. I honestly don't remember. But Mighty Thor 705, 9.8, Death of Jane Foster. Definitely a cool book to pull out of the box, and a nice way to start this run here. All right, so we're gonna pull out the next one here and see what we get. This one's okay. I think this was actually a pre-screen that I sent in 9.6 and above. So CGC gives you the ability to send books in and to have those books screened at a certain level. And I think for this one, I basically did a 9.6. So anything above a 9.6, CGC would grade. Anything below, they would basically reject back to me. That way I would not incur the cost of getting a book graded, for example, that didn't meet that thresholds of a 9.6. And sometimes when you're dealing with modern books, that is the way to go, because there is a price difference between like a 9.6, 9.8 and a 9.4 that is material, right? So this next one is a 9.6 and actually one of my favorite covers here. I'm surprised that this one received a 9.6, but hey, it happens, right? This is Amazing Spider-Man 796. Just a dope cover right there. I absolutely love this face cover. This one is by Alex Ross, and he has like a series of these. The one with Incredible Hulk is incredible. The one with Captain America is really nice, and of course this one with my favorite wall crawler is also pretty slick. I was hoping for a 9.8 on that one. So this next one, very, very nice. I'm not surprised by this one. I referenced the cleaning and pressing videos that I did earlier today. This book was actually pressed in one of those videos as like a demonstration book and then was promptly sent off to CGC as evidence of my ability to press a book. It was The Walking Dead 192, The Death of Rick Grimes. This one came back a 9.8 with white pages. This is also the special commemorative edition of that book, the 192. I think I have like 2 of these in there, but definitely a cool book. I've basically been able to get, I'm not the biggest Walking Dead comic book fan, but I have like 191, 192, 193. I have the various versions of those particular books in the collection. And speaking of that, this one is really nice. We have The Walking Dead 193. It is a square bound that came back at a 9.8. I'm very pleased to see how well Image did with this book. They did it right. This is a really, really thick book. They did it a square bound, which was absolutely the way to do it. And this is actually the last issue of the Walking Dead series, issue number 193. So I have a couple of these now, and I think I have a couple more in here. And then I also have the San Diego Comic-Con version of 193 as well. It's a gorgeous like blue cover. That one's yellow, the other is blue. So we'll pull this out. Yeah, buddy. One of my favorite story arcs that is going on right now, House of X. House of X number 1, 9.8 white pages. This one is a really, really cool book. A fantastic story that is in the process of winding down as we speak. So definitely a little sad, but it's really cool to have this one in the collection at a 9.8. And that's one of those books that, you know, you're always evaluating the cost of getting a book graded and all that kind of stuff versus the value of that book. And there's that balance, right? And it becomes this thing of what are you going to do with that book? That book right there is actually going to stay in the collection. So to get it graded, even though the cost of grading is maybe higher, if you will, than the actual value, doesn't really matter because the book is actually staying in the collection. But because I cleaned and pressed the book myself, that brought down my cost tremendously. So the value of the book versus the cost of the book aren't out of whack big time, right? Because I didn't have to worry about cleaning, pressing with CGC, which can be a pretty expensive thing. My costs are much lower. So oh, this one's cool too. I'm actually a little surprised by this one. No, not this one. Not this one. This one I was definitely pleased with. So this is the partial sketch cover of House of X number 1. I went ahead and sent this one in. I had another one similar to this that actually had a little bit of a defect down here in the UPC area that I actually did not send in because it probably would not have come back at a 9.8. And again, for a modern book, newer book, I try to get them as close to 9.8s as possible because sometimes it just does not warrant actually sending those books in if they're not going to come back at a 9.8. Unless, again, you're doing it for some other purposes, right? So we have a little bit of a disappointing one right here. I'm really surprised by this one. This is another Walking Dead book. Came back at a 9.6. This is the last issue I just showed, Walking Dead 193. This one came back at a 9.6 versus a 9.8. And I'm honestly not quite sure why. But there you have it. There you have it. So we'll set that one off to the side. See what else is in this box. Oh, I love this cover. I love this one. This is one of my favorite covers right here. This is a Ed McGuinness variant cover of Amazing Spider-Man 797. This is the design variant cover. Came back at a 9.8. I really dig these covers right here. My father used to use this graph paper back in the day to like, if he was working on like redesigning the front yard with like the flower beds or, you know, doing a project in the backyard or whatever it is, he always used to use his graph paper. And so these covers remind me of my father and that exercise that he used to go through every single year for several years. So I definitely dig this one. And I'm also a big Ed McGuinness fan and also a Red Goblin fan. So this brings me a whole lot of happiness when I see that 9.8 come out of there. So that's the first half of the box. there is this book right here. This is actually a reject box, and we'll open that up in a second. But as I mentioned, I did the pre-screen for 9.6 and above, so probably this book is less than a 9.6. So we'll open that up and see what's in there, because I honestly can't remember. This one. I don't know what happened with this one. This is Silver Surfer Black #1 variant edition. Null cameo on last page. It actually came back at a 9.6 with this one. I was hoping for a 9.8. I'm not quite sure what happened with this one. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happened with it. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of I can't tell whether that's from the front cover or what. All right, but definitely a cool book. A lot of people, don't like the artwork in the Silver Surfer Black. It's a little Laffy Taffy, but I actually dig it. I dig the writing, and I also dig the Laffy Taffy artwork. But Silver Surfer Black #1 came back at a 9.6. So this one, I think this one actually came from my guys over at IG Comic Store. I actually picked that up from them. Oh, this one makes me happy. Now, this one makes me happy. Scott Williams, who is the inker for Jim Lee, did this one right here. This is an IG Comic Store variant edition. Null cameo on last page. Silver Surfer Black #1. This one is a dope cover. I love this version. I don't think that I sent in the trade dress, the one that actually has Silver Surfer Black across the top. I think that this one was the one that I decided to send in because it had the best chance at coming back at a 9.8. And sure enough, it did come back at a 9.8. Silver Surfer Black from IG Comic Store. All right, we are getting down towards the end here. I'm going to continue working my way through. This one I am actually quite pleased with. This one I am pleased with. This is Amazing Spider-Man #607. Super dope Black Cat cover right there. I love this one. I actually have 2 copies of this one. This one is the better of the 2. I was hoping that it would get a 9.8, but 9.6 is probably a more realistic grade for this one. Again, cleaned and pressed this one myself. But yeah, came back at a 9.6, white pages. I absolutely love this J. Scott Campbell cover right here. This one is a really, really cool book. So that's cool. All right, let's see what else we have in here. This is part of this one and the last one are part of the reasons why I actually send it in at a 9.6 and above, because I figured that these two would come back at 9.6s, and that's part of the reason why I set that threshold there. The others, I felt like they should be 9.8s, but I wanted to make sure that I could send all of these books together in one shipment, because there is a minimum requirement anytime you do a pre-screen, and I think it's 15 books. So I sent 17, and so that's why I had to do like the 9.6 and above. This one is one that has actually been in my collection for a while. This is Venomverse #1 Virgin Edition. Came back at a 9.6. This one, again, I assume that it would be. It has a black back cover, which can be problematic for scuffs and scrapes and all that kind of stuff. But this one is actually pretty clean, which gives me a lot of faith. But something brought it down to a 9.6, and I think it was this corner right here, which you're probably not going to be able to see. There's a little bit of a ding on this back corner, and so there you go. These next couple, yeah. I've never bought one of these books before in my life. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, number 95. This is when Jenna becomes a Ninja Turtle. This is the first appearance of the female Ninja Turtle. I picked this one up. I remember calling around to some of my local comic shops to see who had this book so that I could get this book from this. This one actually came back at a 9.8. And this one actually came back at a 9.6. This is the brother of the one that I just showed. This one came back at a 9.6. Definitely a cool book. People were really pumped to hear about the female Ninja Turtle, so I went ahead and snagged a couple of those. And then we have 2 books left. We are in the home stretch here. I actually have a ton of these books. And sent in the best of the ones that I could find. This is Amazing Spider-Man 798, 9.8 white pages. This is the Venom Dodson cover, and features Venom right there. This is a cool one. This is a cool one. So yeah, I have a ton of those, like 797 through 801. I have multiple copies of those. And so the very last book, so we end and we begin on basically the same character, that being Jane Foster. This is Thor #1. It actually came back at a 9.6 white pages. This is where Jane Foster actually becomes Thor. A really cool book. I was hoping for a 9.8 with this one, but a 9.6 isn't bad either. Definitely a cool book to have back. So there you go. So that, let's open up this other one. Let's open up this raw. Let's open up this raw book here to see which one they rejected. And again, this service that CGC offers with this screening, I really find valuable, right? Because there are some books that, again, if they don't come back at a high grade as a modern book, it's almost not worth sending them in. And so the ability to actually have, a professional grader determine that beforehand, I think is a great service that CGC offers. So, oh man, wow. So I was hoping that this one would come back. I wonder what happened. I'll have to take a look at this one. This is Amazing Spider-Man 796. This is the third printing. Kind of matches one of the Alex Ross covers that I just showed a moment ago, but the black and white version. I absolutely love these covers, so that's why I wanted to have a colored version and a black and white version in the collection, but they rejected this one for some reason or another. I'll try to take a closer look at it to see what the defect might be. And what's also great here, and I normally don't do this, but it must have been somewhere in one of the backing boards. People oftentimes ask me, do I send in my certificate of authenticity, my COAs and that kind of thing with a submission to CGC if a book has been signed? The answer is no. You don't do that, whether it's been signed or whether it's a limited comic or whatever it happens to be. You don't need to send that in. CGC is not going to do anything with that. But one of mine actually slipped through the cracks, and so they actually sent that back to me. And there is basically a note on this one that basically says, do not encapsulate, please keep with invoice. And again, this is probably their internal way of making sure that they don't inadvertently encapsulate one of these COAs into a book. And this one actually came from IG Comic Store. This was one of the Silver Surfer black comic that I showed you guys. So basically CGC sends this back, but again, it's one of those things that you don't need to include because there's nothing that they're going to do with it other than throw it away or send it back to you. So that is essentially my haul of 17-ish books from CGC. All modern books. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, I definitely want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up on the video. If you want to leave some comments behind, definitely do that. We can mix it up in the comment section, and certainly if you guys need to chat with me, don't hesitate to reach out to me at RegieCollects on Instagram. Take care.